Chapter 4, Bhishma battles Parasharama. After receiving consent from Maharaja Bhishma, Princess Amba left the city of Hastinapura, and traveled to the province where King Salva ruled. She was granted an interview, and bowing before him, she pleaded, I have come to take shelter in your mighty arms, O brave king. Please accept me as your queen. King Salva laughed to hear Amba's request and informed her, I no longer desire you for my queen, for you have been touched by another. It is Bhishma only who can marry you. When Bhishma abducted you, you followed him willingly enough. How can a king like myself, who is acquainted with Vedic knowledge and is supposed to guide others accordingly, accept into his palace a woman who is intended to marry another? O Princess of Kashi, you may go wherever you like, but I cannot accept you as my queen. Amba was aggrieved by King Salva's rejection. She pleaded again, O Lord of the earth, it is not as you say. Bhishma took me away by force. I did not go with him willingly. I am attached to you, and I beg you to accept me. The scriptures declare that a king should not abandon one who is dependent on him. I swear, O tiger among men, that I have never thought of any other man except you. Bhishma will not marry anyone, and my two sisters have been married to Vitrarya. Therefore, O king, accept me as your wife, for I have no other shelter. Although she repeatedly solicited King Salva, he would not accept her and ordered her to leave his kingdom. Thus Amba left the kingdom of Salva, lamenting her destiny. Amba decided to inhabit the forest and practiced austerities and penances for the rest of her life. In her wandering, she came upon the ashrama of some great rishis, and she informed them of her plight. It so happened that among these great sages was her maternal grandfather, Vahana. The royal sage felt despondent for what had befallen her, and told her that on the following day, Parasharama, the martial teacher of Bhishma, would come to the ashram. He was sure Parasharama would influence Bhishma to accept her hand in marriage. The next day, Parasharama arrived at the ashram, and Amba related to him the events of her abduction by Bhishma and her rejection by King Salva. She requested that the great sage to kill Bhishma. Parasharama felt sorry for the girl and gave her hope by saying, O daughter of Kashi, I will not take up weapons except to protect those that follow the Vedas. Tell me therefore what I can do for you. Both Bhishma and Salva are obedient to me. Do not lament. I will fulfill your desire. Parasharama, the annihilator of the Kshatriyas, then went to Hastinapura, and when Bhishma learned that his preceptor had arrived, he went out to the city to greet him. Bhishma worshipped him according to his position and then waited for him to speak. Rama inquired from Bhishma, after taking a vow of celibacy, in what mood did you abduct the princess of Kashi and then send her away? Contaminated by the touch of your hands, no one will marry her. Salva has rejected her because you have forcibly placed her on your chariot. O king, it is not proper for you to be humiliated in this way. Therefore, at my command, take her yourself and marry her according to Vedic rites. O Brahmana Maharaja, Bhishma replied, I could not bestow this maiden upon my brother because of her desire to accept Salva as her lord. As for myself, I have taken a vow of perpetual celibacy, and I will not break that vow under any circumstances. Upon hearing the disobedient words of his disciple, Parasharama was outraged and rolling his eyes in anger. He said, if you do not follow my commands, then I shall kill you this very day, along with your counselors. Bhishma tried to placate his preceptor by sweet words, but Parasharama could not be pacified. He told Bhishma, you accepted me as your preceptor, yet, O Kaurava, you will not follow my instructions. If you want to please me, then accept this maiden as your wife. I cannot follow this instruction, O best of the rishis, Maharaja, Bhishma replied. O son of Jamadagni, all your attempts to secure this marriage will be in vain. What warrior would accept into his abode a woman whose heart was wedded to another? O Brahmana, I will not forsake justice, even from fear of Indra. One can reject the order of the preceptor if he is filled with vanity, destitute of knowledge concerning right or wrong, and who follows a filled oops, and who follows a devious path. You are my preceptor. Hi, Sam.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. And I have tried to pacify you as far as possible. However, this instruction is not according to religious principles, and therefore I will fight with you. I would never slay my preceptor in battle. However, it is a well-known truth that one is not guilty of slaying a Brahmana who takes up arms like a Kshatriya. Because you are acting unrighteously, I will fight with you. O Rama, equip yourself with proper weapons and position yourself on the Kurukshetra field. Subdued by my arrows, you will obtain the higher regions. The Brahmanas have spoken of the power which you had exhibited against the kingly dynasties long ago. However, in those days there was no Bishma, nor I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Nor were there any warrior kings like Bhishma. Kshatriyas endowed with power took their births later on. The person who will quell your pride has now taken birth, and this is none other than myself. Bhishma and Parasharama then made their way to Kurukshetra. Maharaja Bhishma was stationed on a chariot drawn by white horses. Parasharama had created by his mystic power a beautiful chariot drawn by horses that could travel at the speed of the mind. The fighting began when Parasharama struck his disciple with hundreds of arrows. Bhishma countered with many more arrows, and the fighting went on till the end of the day. However, it was seen that neither was the victor. After the battle had ceased, Bhishma's chariot plucked out Parashurama's arrow from his own body. After the battle had ceased, Bhishma's charioteer plucked out Parashuram's arrows from his own body. He also withdrew the arrows from the horses and those of his master, Bhishma. The son of Ganja then went to his tent for his nightly rest. When the sun had risen the following day, the battle resumed. Bhishma offered his obeisances unto his preceptor and then fought with him, and again fought with him. On this day, all the celestial weapons were used. Rama released the Vaya weapon, tornado weapon, and Bhishma countered it with the Gayaka weapon. Bhishma then released the Agnaya weapon, which brought about great fire. However, Parasharama released the Varuna weapon, water weapon, causing the fire to abate. The preceptor neutralized all the weapons released by his disciple. Parasharuma then released the flaming arrow that struck Bhishma in the chest, causing him to fall unconscious on the floor of his chariot. The charioteer then took Bhishma away from the battlefield. All the followers of Parasharuma, including the princess of Kashi, were pleased with that action. However, Bhishma regained consciousness and came back to fight with his martial teacher. However, he struck Parasharuma with a powerful arrow, causing him to fall unconscious on the battlefield. The princess of Kashi and others came to his side, reviving him with cold water and sweet words. Parasharuma then rose up like lightning and again engaged in furious combat with his disciple. In this way, the duel went on for 23 days. On the night of the 23rd day, Maharaja Bhishma retired to his tent and lying down on his bed began to reason. The fighting has been going on for many days and still I have not defeated him. I am unable to vanquish the son of Jamadagni. If I am to succeed in subduing this foremost Brahmana, then the gods must assist me. Thinking like this, Bhishma fell asleep. In a dream, 8 Brahmanas appeared before him, encouraging, rise up, O son of Ganja, do not fear. We will protect you from Parasharama. We will help you conquer Rama in battle. During tomorrow's encounter, the mantras for the Praswapa weapon will come to your minds. Neither Parasharama nor any other person is acquainted with it. With this weapon, you will defeat your preceptor. O king, it will not slay Parasharama outright, and therefore there will be no sin incurred using it. After he has been defeated, you will be able to awaken him with the Swamvadana weapon. Having said this much, the 8 effulgent Brahmanas disappeared. When dawn appeared the next day, Maharaja Bhishma joyfully equipped himself for battle. Parasharama also ascended his chariot and prepared to fight his disobedient disciple. Parasharama first hurled a dart that was as relentless as Indra's thunderbolt. It was thrown with such lightning force that it appeared like a blazing meteor. That dart descended upon the Bhishma's shoulder, causing severe pain to the great hero. Angered by the weapon, Bhishma released an arrow that struck his martial teacher in the forehead. Rama paid no attention to the pain and invoked the Brahmastra weapon. The weapon is similar to a modern-day atomic bomb. Bhishma also released the same weapon, and when the 2 weapons met, there was an expansion of light similar to that of the time of dissolution. When the 2 weapons were neutralized, Bhishma thought of releasing the Praswapa weapon. When he was thinking in this way, the mantras for the weapon appeared in his mind. While Bhishma was fixing the weapon to his bowstring, he heard many voices in the sky loudly exclaiming, "Oh, son of the Kuru race, do not release the Praswapa weapon." Bhishma paid no attention and drew back the string of his bow. At that time, Narada appeared at the scene, imploring Bhishma, "O son of Kuru, do not release this weapon. Even the demigods are forbidding you. Rama is a Brahmana who has performed great austerities, and he is also your teacher. O Bhishma, never humiliate him." Upon hearing Narada's order, Bhishma withdrew the Praswapa weapon. Parasharama's father, Jamadagni, and grandfather, Rakika, then appeared before Parasharama, ordering, "O son, never again engage in battle with Bhishma or any other Kshatriya. Heroism and courage in battle are the qualities of a warrior, and study of the Vedas and practice of austerities are the wealth of the Brahmanas. Previously, you took up weapons to protect the Brahmanas, but this is not the case now. Let this battle with Bhishma be your last." Parasharama then replied to his forefathers, "I cannot give up this combat. I have vowed that I will never leave the battlefield without defeating my enemy. This battle can only cease if Ganja's son desists from fighting." Those great sages then went to Bhishma requesting, "O son of Santanu, you should not fight any longer with your preceptor. You should now worship that esteemed Brahmana." "I have taken a vow that I will never lay down my weapons without defeating my enemy," Bhishma replied. "I cannot abandon my Kshatriya oath." The sages once again spoke to Rama. "O son of the Vigrigu race, it is not possible to defeat Bhishma, nor is it possible for Bhishma to defeat you. It has been ordained by Providence that the son of Indra, Arjuna, will be the slayer of Bhishma." While the forefathers of Rama were speaking to him, the Pitris, a class of demigods, appeared on the scene and obstructed the chariot of Rama. They forbade him to fight any longer. Just at this time, the 8 effulgent Brahmanas that Maharaja Bhishma had seen in his dream appeared before him, requesting, "O powerful warrior, go to your preceptor and worship him. Without his benediction, you could not obtain happiness." Bhishma, upon seeing that his mentor had laid aside his weapons, bowed before him and offered respectful worship. Rama then raised his disciple. "There is no Kshatriya equal to you on earth. You have pleased me with your prowess and your humility." Bhishma then offered respects to his teacher and returned to Hastinapura. Parasharama then called for Amba and remorselessly said to her, "O Princess of Kashi, I have fought to my best ability, but I could not defeat Bhishma. I have fought with the weapons of the heavenly gods, but still I could not slay him. O beautiful lady, fate seems to have you in her strong grip, and it will not be possible for me to change what Providence has destined for you." Amba was determined that Bhishma should die. She again inhabited the forest and practiced very severe austerities. She gave up all food and water and lived only on air. She stood immovable like a tree for 6 months. After this, she increased her austerities by entering the waters of the Yamuna for 1 whole year. She then stood on her toes for 12 years, scorching the heavens by her austerities. Soon Lord Shiva became pleased and appeared before her. He asked her to take a benediction. With joined palms, she solicited Bhishma's death. He granted the benediction, saying, "It will be you who will cause his death." Amba then inquired, "How will it come to pass that I, a woman, will defeat Bhishma?" Lord Shiva replied, "My boons will never go in vain. You will be born in your next life as a female in the family of King Drupada, changing to manhood in that very life. You will become a great Maharathi chariot fighter, and remembering your former hatred for Bhishma and the incidents in this life, you will cause his death in battle." After granting this benediction, Lord Shiva disappeared from that place. Amba was joyous to receive Lord Shiva's boon. Wanting to take her next birth as soon as possible, she gathered logs for a funeral pyre. When the fire was blazing, she entered it, uttering the words, "I pray for Bhishma's death." Amba then took her birth in the family of King Drupada, and she was known as Shikhandi. She was born to fulfill Lord Shiva's benediction. Thus ends the Mahabharata summation of the 4th chapter of the Adi Parva entitled Bhishma Battles Parasharuma. Chapter commentary. Parasharuma was the martial teacher of Bhishma, and therefore it was expected that Bhishma would submit to the demands of his preceptor. That is how one advances in spiritual life. Both Bhishma and Parasharuma are in the category of liberated associates of the Lord. Parasharuma is a Shaktavesha avatara, an empowered living entity, and Bhishma was a pure devotee of the Lord, one of the 12 Mahajanas. This pastime was arranged by the internal potency of the Lord and therefore cannot be imitated. The 4 Kumaras were liberated devotees, and they disobeyed the order of their father, Brahma, when he requested them to get married and beget progeny. The conditioned soul cannot imitate these pastimes and disobey the order of the spiritual master. It is stated by Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur that by pleasing the spiritual master, one pleases God, and by displeasing the spiritual master, displeases God. We have personally seen during the life of our spiritual master, that certain disciples fell down from the path of devotional service by displeasing the spiritual master. For the conditioned soul, it is imperative that he follow the order of the guru so that he can come to the transcendental platform of self-realization. All the spiritual masters and acharyas in the disciplic line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have set the example of strictly following the order of the spiritual master. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Lord Krishna himself, accepted a spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, and strictly followed his instructions. Ishvara Puri instructed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to only chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Mahamantra, and not to read Vedanta Sutra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself, is the author of the Vedanta Sutra, but to show the conditioned souls in the age of Kali how to follow instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, he never studied Vedanta Sutra again. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated Prakashananda Saraswati, a Mahaveda sannyasin, in debate, he did so on the basis of Srimad Bhagavatam. He did this to show humility before the order of the bona fide spiritual master. In this chapter, the revengeful attitude shown by Amba is not the nature of a Vaishnava devotee. Due to the sinful activities performed in many millions of births, the living entity has caused his own suffering. In the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Purusha Sukha Dukhanam, the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. From this, we understand who is the actual cause of Amba's suffering. Due to some impious deed performed in a previous life, she is suffering for want of a husband. Therefore, she should not blame a respected person like Bishma, but herself. When a person comes to Krishna consciousness, the Supreme Lord minimizes the karma of the living entity. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan. Whatever karmic reactions the living entity would have received under the modes of material nature are now minimized in giving directly to Lord Krishna. Therefore, a devotee should see everything as God sent and take the humble position as mentioned by Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastra. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw of the street, more tolerant than a tree, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Unfortunately, Amba has not conquered the real enemy of hatred within. She has not achieved the platform of Vaishnavi. If she had, she would have tolerated the situation, taking it as the mercy of the Lord. In Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna, the ideal mentality is revealed. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Our sufferings are due to our own misdeeds, and others are simply instructions to receive our punishment. We should learn not to see the immediate cause, but the remote cause of our suffering, our own sins. Therefore, Jesus Christ told the stone throwers, let he who is free from sin cast the first stone. We cannot blame anyone else for our own sufferings.